Back by popular demand is a lesson that we had initially introduced about 6 years ago, and I'm not crazy about the title, but it has sticking power with the faculty, so we're going to stick with it. And we're going to, you have in front of you, students, a works cited that has numbered citations. This is not a recommendation that you should number your citations. It's just that's the only way we can identify them in the answer sheet. You also have an answer sheet that has 20 response spaces, and you are going to evaluate the work cited by posting your feedback and evaluation comments for each one in the spaces provided on the answer sheet. So we're going to do the first one together, and you can see that it has an NP and an ND. And right there in the citation, there's a hint that could help get rid of that NP, and we're going to talk about that for just a minute. So if we actually go to the site, you can see in the little text box down at the bottom of the screen that I've enlarged what it says at the top. So it says submitted by Simone Shane on Saturday, May 10, 2008, for Biology 202 Web Paper 3. And it opens with, a few weeks ago I was doing a project on maternal separation anxiety for another course when I came across a very interesting article that outlined a study contained with premature infants in neonatal intensive care units and their mothers. All right, so this student has done this assignment for a biology class. Now, if we want to know more information about the publisher, we can go to About, up in the top right-hand corner, and the date is actually in the lower left-hand corner, and the most recent date is 2014, so that's what we would put in our works cited. What you're going to do now is what you typically do, which is to copy and paste the URL into the website field and click Cite It. And what EasyBib will tell you is that they found some information, but they did not find other information, so you need to pay attention to that. You can click Continue, and you can see that the fields where they did not find the information are highlighted in red. So we need to go back to Serendip Studio to find out a little bit more information. So here it says that it's an ecosystem for exploring, and basically in a nutshell what they say is this is a community for students and teachers to participate in not telling you what to think, but in fact to teach you to think for yourself. And if you click on the contributors, it brings you to this page, and you can see that it's a blend of students and faculty. But one of the people that is not listed here is our Simone, our biology student, who posted this little, looks like a blog post that we have. One of the great hints, and I mentioned this on the first slide, is that in the URL it says bryn-mawr.edu, and that is a college, so this is a university website. So now we can go and fill in the spaces in the works cited. And this is what the citation looks like when it's all done. Now, the question is, should you use this? And honestly, I'm not sure you should, because at the bottom of this post, there's a link, a direct link to the research study that Simone used for her post. And I think that would probably be a much better resource for you to include rather than a college, presumably sophomore's biology paper or post. If you want to take a look at what the website includes, it's pretty long, and there's an abstract at the top, there's an introduction, and then you can scroll through a lot of methodology. But then if you get to the bottom, and I'll pause there when I get there, you will see that there is a really nice summary of conclusions, and also at the very bottom a long list of references. Now this is going to be a far more valuable resource in terms of taking you to the next level and being able to dig deeper into your research than Simone's little post here on Serendip Studio. Together, why don't you, first of all, you should complete your name, your teacher, and your period, but also I want you to write in the first space NP-ND not sufficiently credible. And now at this point, what I'm going to ask the teacher to do is to stop the video, pause it, and allow students to examine the works cited, or bibliography if you want to call it that, and then write their evaluative comments in the corresponding spaces on the answer sheet. And this should take approximately 15 minutes, and students should work independently, that is quietly. And when they are done, you can restart the video at this point. When students are done, please restart the video. Okay, so let's go over these together. In number 2, by Kendra Cherry, Hierarchy of Needs. There are a couple of things that are wrong. One is the NP-ND, as we said before. One is that it's missing a URL, which frankly is very helpful in terms of evaluating these. And it's also from about.com, which typically is not a recommended resource to include in a works cited. So, but just to make sure, let's go take a look at the website. So here it is, and if we click on Kendra Cherry's name, you will see it takes you to a little bit of information about her. And it turns out she's actually written a book, and she's worked extensively with children who are suffering from emotional disturbances. And she's really had a real career in psychology around this. So she holds a master's in science, and she's a practitioner in psychology. And for that reason, I think that this might be a valuable resource, even though it comes from about.com. Now, about.com is still an encyclopedia, so it is still a broad overview kind of resource. It is not going to give you any in-depth information, but you can include a handful of these in your works cited. So if we were going to go to EasyBib and do what we did the last time, which is to copy and paste the URL, it again tells you what it found, and again it tells you what it didn't find. So we need to go and look at what we should call this website, because as we know very well, it is not okay to have an http:// or a .com in the description of the website. So in our story, they do refer to about.com as just plain about. Right there, it's circled. At the bottom of the page, you will also see that there is a 2014, so you can update that date of publication. So here we go. We're going to put in the author information. We're going to put plain old about under publisher sponsor. I'm sure there's somebody who could pick a fight with me about that, but I'm going to go with that for now. And 2014 is the date of publication, and ta-da, you are done. Now here's the third source, Wikipedia, and this is not something we like to see in a works cited, although it's fine to consult it, but it is pretty much common knowledge, and it doesn't really bring anything particularly insightful typically to the resource. Here is the article in question. The only time I really recommend that you cite a Wikipedia article is if you go to view history. And if there's an active dialogue and you want to cite that as a primary source about an international conversation that's happening about a very controversial topic, then that's a legitimate way to cite Wikipedia. But for these purposes, I would really omit that from this works cited. Again, if you already have about.com, that's encyclopedic. This is another one that's truly encyclopedic. And you get to a point where it's just too much superficial information and not enough in-depth information. Fourth one is an editorial from the New York Times, and the word editorial is in the wrong place. So what we should do is go to the source itself and take a look at that page. The New York Times is really, really kind about posting all the information that you will need for your works cited, which I love. Wall Street Journal is a little bit trickier. All right, so if you go to EasyBib and you click on newspaper and you put in the title, what it will do is give you a very long list of titles to choose from, and honestly, I've never really found the title to the article I want in this list. So I'm going to recommend that you not use this tab and look for a newspaper article. And what I want you to do instead is go to all 59 options and choose newspaper article. And when you open that, make sure you click the online tab unless you found the article in print or on a database. One of the things that's very nice about the New York Times, I said they're very generous, is that in the fine print at the bottom of the article it says a version of this editorial appears in print on May 25th, 2013 on page A18 of the New York edition with the headline Exercise in Academic Performance. And so you can choose originally in print, and you can also look for source type, editorial found in a newspaper. And now you can start completing all of the fields that are available for that type of source. Now, there are things I want to point out here. You're going to leave the author field blank because it's written by the editorial board on behalf of the New York Times. I'm also going to leave the publisher/sponsor field blank because you already have New York Times written twice. There's no point in adding it a third time. It just becomes a terribly redundant citation. Remember and note that the date of print and online publication are different by a day, so you want to make sure that you have both fields complete and correct. Now, if your NP shows up in your citation, after you complete all the information and you click Create Citation and you have an NP there, okay, you need to get rid of that. And the way you're going to do that is to go to Edit the Citation, and instead of using those fields, you're going to go to Advanced Edit, and you're going to take it out of the citation. And there you go, and now you can update your citation, and there you go, your NP and your ND is gone. So editorial is now in the correct space, which is after the title, and that was the problem that we had with that citation. All right, this one we have the URL. That's a URL as the web page, and you cannot do that. So what is that website called? It's called the American Psychological Association. At the bottom of the page, there is a date of publication, which is 2014. So you need to go and update that information. The other thing that we noted is down at the bottom of the article, very often a lot of organizations will tell you exactly how they want to be attributed credit. So in this instance, it says, please give credit to the American Psychological Association, even though right above it, it thanks Rod Dishman, but it doesn't say if Rod Dishman actually wrote the piece. It only says thanks to Rod Dishman. So we're going to stick with what the APA asks for, which is for them to get the credit for the source. So over here, we can see that we've filled in the blanks. And under author or contributors, we've put the American Psychological Association. It's a corporate author, but since they specifically asked to be given credit, it's better to give the organization credit as an author, not just as a website publisher. And again, we have American Psychological Association showing up in 3 different spaces, which is a little bit excessive, so you can take one of those out. And we're going to choose to take out the last one, which says the sponsor of the website. And make sure you take out the right punctuation, and you leave that comma between that and the date that last updated. For number 6, we've got another about.com. And we're going to go there, and we're going to click on the author name, just like we did last time. And it turns out that Carol Bainbridge doesn't have quite the expertise as our last contributing author. She's been a board member of the Indiana Association for the Gifted since '99. She helped with their conference. She was also their web administrator, and she's a co-founder and president of a local parent support group. And along with another member of her local group, she started a Saturday enrichment program for gifted children. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology, and she's completing a doctoral degree in linguistics with a focus on whatever. Okay, so here's the problem with this. She is not as credible as the last one, and I'll tell you why. She is an advocate, that is clear, but outside of holding a bachelor's degree and possibly completing some work towards her doctoral degree, it doesn't mention that she has a master's degree. And shy of being a really strong advocate for the gifted, she doesn't seem to have any real practitioner's expertise. So I'm going to say you should skip this one. Number 7. This one drives me crazy when they put those slash marks, those bars in the middle of it. That means that they've merged different fields together. So this is messed up, and we need to get rid of that and separate all this stuff out. So all of the information you need is clearly listed here on the page, and a lot of this didn't make it in. So you can see right here, this is where the mistake happened. Where it says we found, it has the same title for the website and for the article, and it also has /Cornell something. So when we go to the fields, you'll see that you have too much information and redundant information in both the article title and the website title. So you need to break it up a little bit. So we have to take out the Cornell Chronicle from the article title and put it into the website title, and then we need to add in the sponsor, which is Cornell University, add in the author information, and add in the date of publication. And there you have your corrected citation. All right, here's another example. The URL gives everything away, and it could be easily resolved by just looking at that URL closely. So here's the website. That row in the red rectangle with a white background is called breadcrumbs, and that gives you, it's just like Hansel and Gretel, that's where it got its name, and it leaves traces behind so you can find your way back home. But it also gives you sort of a hierarchy of how this website is arranged. So it's home, newsletters, Harvard Men's Health Watch, February 2011, exercising to relax, and the publisher sponsors up at the top. So all the information you need is right here. But it's important to note that it's a newsletter, and so you have to cite it as such, not as a website. And so if you look on the left, that's how you would cite it if it was a website. On the right, that's how you would cite it as a newsletter. You can see that the fields are vastly different. So here is the revised citation. This one comes from FAQs.org. So let's check that out. So here it is, and if we click on the FAQs.org in the top left-hand corner, that will take us to the About Us page. But before we do that, let's look at that disclaimer at the bottom of the screen. It says the content is not intended as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. So now we're going to go to the About page, and it says not a whole lot, but it does say that the maintainers of this archive are not the authors or maintainers of the individual articles appearing on this site. And you can email them to correct it or to post something specific. So it looks like this is not actually, they're not creating content, they are just archiving questions and responses that already exist on the web. And that tends to be fairly unreliable, so I would skip this source. Howard Gardner is a very well reputed professor of cognition at Harvard University. And this reference comes from PBS, which should be spelled out as a public broadcasting service. There's no date here, but if we go take a look at the site, it's actually under probably the least desirable PBS website to find information about an expert in cognition that you can have. Great Performances is a program on PBS that features ballet and symphonic performances, but it is not really about high-level cognition specialists. So for some reason or another, it's there under tips and resources, which is lovely, but surely there are better resources to go learn about Howard Gardner. Now, I was challenged by a student saying, well, if it lists the intelligences there, what difference does it make whether you use this website or another? And the answer is this. This Works Cited contains already far too many encyclopedic references. This is just another one. So we need to start digging deeper and learn more about the depth of Howard Gardner's philosophy and what his deeper knowledge is beyond the superficial multiple intelligences. On the other hand, at the bottom of that page is a really nice list of links to more substantive resources on Howard Gardner's work. This one comes from something called Fit Day, and again we have NPND, so let's go check out Fit Day. And this is Fit Day. A lot of ads here, can't really tell exactly what it is. So I'm going to scroll around in this website to see what I can figure out. So it's about mental toughness. There's some very small paragraphs there. It looks like about 300 words or so, not too much. You'll notice the comments, nice article, nice article. That looks pretty bogus. At the bottom you have the date of last updated, 2013. And if we choose, there's no about, but there is credits and affiliates. Oh, look, it's asking us to buy ad space here. Okay, that's what the affiliate program is, a code word for the affiliate program. All right. So now we just can't seem to find any information. It's asking to set up an account. It's featuring a ton of ads. And here's the deal on this. This is a bogus space. It's really designed to generate ad revenue. And if we look at down there, it says Internet Brands Inc. So if we just go Google that, Internet Brands Inc., and we go find that website, you can see that it has absolutely no content that has to do with what it was that we were researching. This is really just a business site. This one's from Fit Day also, so I'm not going to spend any more time talking about that. All right, on this one, it says no publisher, but it's the New York Times. We all know who the publisher of the New York Times is. It's the New York Times. So what this person needs to do is just remove that NP. And we've shown video how to do that. This one comes from the personalitypage.com. And if we look back at that, it says that the name of the website is Personality Page. I don't really see that here. It says Portrait of an ESTJ, Extroverted Sensing Thinking Judging. And if we look down at the bottom of the page, it says BSM Consulting Inc. And it was last updated in 2014, so clearly there's a date. And BSM Consulting is business management consulting and training solutions for the healthcare industry. Again, it's asking for login, for subscription. It's not giving a whole lot of information. This strikes me as yet another unreliable source. It's not that the consulting company is bogus, it's just that it's not offering really substantive information about being an extrovert. Again, NPND, and this comes from Working Resources. Here's Working Resources. Aha, yes, we have another consultancy here, and they're giving some information about birth order, and we have Working Resources, and they are executive coaching and leadership consultants, and you can call this 1-800 number if you want to hire them to do some consulting for you. And yet, I really don't think that, given the balance of resources that this student has put together, that this is substantive enough to be a part of this works cited at this point. Here we have the National Center for Biotechnology Information at the U.S. National Library of Medicine. The title of the article says Result Filters, which looks suspect. And here we are. We are actually at PubMed, which is an index of medical articles, and they only offer abstracts. They are not offering the full text. So this is the full content that the student is referencing. And it looks like the student grabbed the URL from this website and put it into EasyBib, which generated some false information. What they need to do instead is cite it as a journal article, if they had the full article. An abstract is not sufficient information to cite the resource at all. But if they were to cite it as a journal article, they would have to click online, the online tab, and they would have to fill in all of the information about that journal. Note also the year of publication is 1988. If you are referencing research, there are very few instances in which 1988 would be acceptable currency. So here is the corrected citation for this article if the article were complete, which it isn't. Here we have a blog, and we can see that it is a blog because in the URL right before New York Times it says blogs, and that may or may not be a problem. Probably isn't, but you'll also see that the wrong part of the citation is italicized. What should be italicized is the publication name, which is the New York Times. So let's take a look. Here is the blog post, and if we click on Gretchen Reynolds' name, it will take us to all of the articles that Gretchen has written for the New York Times. And it looks like she's got a really substantive body of work for the New York Times, and I would say that that gives her some level of expertise on health and wellness. Here is our last one. It comes from masca.psu.edu, so we know that it's from a university. And this is one of those dreaded PDFs. How do you cite a PDF? Well, one thing before we move on to figure out what to do next, let's take note of the fact that the author information is there, and it also says what organization put it out there. So there is more information here than we sometimes get from a PDF. But here is a trick to a PDF. You want to truncate the URL. So the last time we had mental toughness was the last thing after the slash. We're going to take that off, and then we're left with Dave. Just Dave doesn't work. So let's take it down further to mascsa.psu.edu, and that takes us to the Morgan Academic Support Center for Student Athletes at Pennsylvania State University. And down at the bottom of the page, you'll see in red circle there is 2006 was the last updated for that page, which is quite a while ago, mind you. But at least we have the information we need for the citation. So in the space for number 19, please write on a scale of 1 to 10 how you would rate this work cited. And on the back of your answer sheet, could you please write down how you would improve this work cited? When you are done, hand in your answer sheet and the full document to your teacher.